Hope you've all had an enjoyable afternoon. I did. I got a nap in today. One of those rare Sundays where you can do that, at least for me and for our schedule. Fell asleep watching the Bengals football game. Woke up, they were losing, fell back to sleep. Woke up again, they were losing worse, fell back to sleep. Woke up again, they lost. Got the last couple of minutes of the Steelers-Seahawks game. That was pretty good. Well, at least for Pete. Not so much for you, Dave. It was a good game. It's a good Sunday afternoon. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. I have a few thoughts that I want to share with you that kind of touched me. Last weekend, Omar, there we go. Last weekend, we went away. You may recognize some of the people in this picture. Lisa and I call them our family. One guy there, Lisa calls her dad. But those are my three kids and their extended family. We were in West Virginia, outside of Princeton, West Virginia, and I wanted goes 2 generations further back. We were at an area of 6 generations. Alicia Pommel and I had an opportunity during the hurricane relief up in Northridge to work together, and she was telling me about her childhood and where she grew up, and she gave me a saying that some of you will recognize I've never heard, so I'm going to give her the credit for this. And she said that she grew up in a little house that was 4 rooms and a path. Have any of you ever heard that? This house was 4 rooms and a path. Any idea where the path went? Don't shout it. I'm going to show you what went past the path. Yep. Nope. That same picture, that same group of 4 generations, just a little ways from that house, is in the front of a setting. You take them out, and that's what is behind it. That is at the top of a cemetery, the St. Clair Cemetery. This is Bob's mother's, where she grew up at. Claire gets her name from this family. As I looked out at this point, it's often we run into the faith of a mustard seed to move a mountain in Matthew chapter 17. And if you will, I'd like for you to get to there. Matthew chapter 17, because I do want to touch on that. The mountains rolled on and on. They wove one inside the other. And I keep thinking about having the faith to move a mountain, the faith of a mustard seed to move a mountain. Not just a mountain, but what about mountains of faith? See the beauty that lies ahead. Look at Matthew chapter 17, and I want to do 2 little examples right here. Without going into too much depth, there's some uniqueness here. In both of these scriptures, Matthew 17 and Matthew 15, we're going to talk about parents looking after their children, one a son, the other a daughter. But in between the 2 of these, in Matthew chapter 16, Peter reveals that Jesus is the Messiah. And from one point to that, and from that point on, we see faith building in others, Jesus as the Messiah. Please read 17 verse 14 with me. When they came to the crowd, a man approached Jesus and knelt before him. Lord, have mercy on my son. A father crying for his son. He said he has seizures and he's suffering greatly. He often falls in the fire or into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they couldn't heal him. little bit of disappointment. Jesus says, "O unbelieving and perverse generation," Jesus replied, "how long shall I stay with you? How long should I put up with you?" I'm sure he's talking to the disciples here in his concern. He says, "Bring the boy here to me." Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, and he was healed from that moment forward. Then the disciples came to Jesus in private and said, "Why couldn't we drive him out?" "Why couldn't we do it, Jesus? Why couldn't we do it?" "We have faith," he replied, "because you have so little faith. I tell you the truth, if you have the faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." I want that kind of faith. That kind of faith that moves mountain. The background of this picture right here is the same series of mountains. This happened to be a little bit before 7 o'clock in the morning when I was out on my run. A little bit later, that cloud coverage was still over there, and Andrew and Albie and I walked to this particular point. And it struck me as Albie said, "We are higher than the clouds." We are higher than the clouds. It looked as if it was just a sea of clouds below us. The beauty was amazing. Turn over to chapter 15, verse 22. We now have a similar situation, but yet this is a mother asking for her daughter. And let's look at verse 22. A Canaanite woman. Any idea why we want to start out with a Canaanite woman? What were the Canaanites? That's exactly, enemies to Israel. As an enemy of Israel, this woman from the vicinity cried out, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is suffering terribly from demon possession." Jesus did not answer a word. So his disciples came to him and urged him, "Send her away, send her away. We're busy." She kept crying out. He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel." The woman came and knelt before him. "Lord, Lord, help me," she said. He replied, "It is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to their dogs." "Yes, Lord," she said, "yes, but even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus answered. I had to believe that he thought for a moment, there's something unique about this woman. There's something very unique. In my Bible, I have it written as persistent. And he says, "Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted." And her daughter was healed from that very hour. I love this persistence. I don't know about you, but there are times when my faith is weak. There are times when I struggle. And when I stop and realize what is causing that struggle, I realize that there's a distraction. There's a distraction that is going on that I have to work through. This morning, as I got home after a run, the sun is rising close to our property. And we have a big barn that's in the way, and beside that big barn is a huge tree. Both of them need to come down. Both of them need. Paul, did you hear me? That barn needs to come down. It's starting to fall in. We have a big barn on property. Paul built it, and it's in the way of this beauty. I see this sunrise coming up over a field behind us, and we often see deer running through that field. I see this sunrise coming up, and I'm distracted by that view because of this big tree and this big building. And if I can get them out of the way, what beauty I could see. Sometimes we have to look past those distractions that are before us. We have to look past sometimes those big mountains that are in the way. One of the slides that I wanted to add to this short little PowerPoint, I was looking for pictures of a sunrise over a skyscraper so that you could see that the skyscraper was blocking this beauty. I couldn't see it, and every picture I saw was actually kind of cool, so which may be a lesson by itself. When we are discouraged, there's also those times in faith when I know I want it. I want my faith to be stronger. I can't get enough of it. Lord, help me have the stronger faith. Lord, help me have that persistence of faith that allows me to move mountains. How do you get that? I am very excited about the membership that we have in this congregation. There are so many men and women of faith in our brotherhood. There are so many examples of faith and God using faith to help, to heal, to get past the various struggles. I can't get enough of it. There are sometimes obstacles that are in our way that we have to look past to see the beauty God wants us to see. As we were out this last weekend, there was some other beauty. As I was running and I came back through this, I couldn't help, and I literally, as close as that is as close as I was, I couldn't help but see the beauty before us, God's creation. This is the last picture that I want to show you. That's kind of pretty, isn't it? Flowing river. If you knew where I was standing to see that picture, you wouldn't see the beauty that it is. You see, I was on a porch of a Dairy Queen. There's trash all over the porch beside me, trash cans overflowing with Dairy Queen containers. If I looked either way, it's an old Dairy Queen, but it looks out over this beautiful river. And I can't help but think that with faith comes peace like a river that flows. I want you to have mountain-moving faith. I know that it's easy to be distracted. I know that it's easy to struggle with relationships and health issues and opportunities that get in the way. We sing a song in our hymnal, song number 586. You don't need to go to it, but the first couple of lines you'll recognize it. It says, "My faith looks up to thee, thou Lamb of Calvary, Savior divine. Now hear me while I pray, take all my guilt away. Oh, let me from this day be wholly thine. May thy rich grace impart strength to my fainting heart, my zeal inspire, as thou hast died for me. Oh, may my love to thee, pure, warm, and changeless be, a living fire of faith, of hope. I want to serve a living God." I appreciated Houston's comments this morning. And JD and I were in the parking lot talking. Even at an older age, you find that there are things in Scripture that stand out and inspire you. And as many times as we've sung the song, "And He walks with me, and He talks with me, and He tells me I am His own," Houston, I have to tell you, it didn't occur to me until your sermon this morning that He walked with them in a way that they recognized His step. I want to recognize God's steps, and just as important, I want God to recognize my steps. Those are my thoughts for you this evening. We are a loving congregation. We are very prayerful. We stay in constant prayer for each other's activities, for each other's strength and faith. We share the health issues and the concerns that we face and that we struggle. If we can help you in any way, our hearts and our thoughts and our prayers are always open. Take advantage of this opportunity and come while we stand and while we sing. Rich?